Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at Van Presto's Special Creative Model EX Zeta Gundam. As some of you guys may know, coming in October is Robot Damacy Zeta Gundam. Now, in my opinion, the SCM EX is one of the best looking action figures of the Zeta that exists, and because the Robot Damacy model looks very similar to this, I thought I would pick this up beforehand for the comparison once the Robot Damacy comes out. Now, this particular Zeta is actually the second version, as you can see here on the box, and this was released along with the White Unicorn Zeta, which was piloted by Amuro Ray during the Green Divers short. Now, this particular Zeta comes with the Mega Beam launcher and a series of 4 extra hands, whereas the White Unicorn Zeta comes with the Beam Saber and the Beam Rifle. There's also another version of this particular Zeta where the normal Zeta in these colors come with these accessories, and that was packed with the special created model EX Hyakushiki. I do eventually plan on hunting down the White Unicorn version, which is why I decided to get this version of Zeta instead of the one with the beam rifle. Now, as you can see, the size here is actually a bit small. It's definitely not 1/144 because if you look at it next to my real grade Zeta right here, it's actually quite a lot smaller. Before we move on to the figure itself, let's take a closer look at its accessories. So this is the Hyper Mega Beam Launcher. And like most versions of this weapon that you might know, it has several moving parts. So here's the big guard that has the main trigger inside. And you have the 2 guards on the side with the smaller handles that also come out, like so. The rifle itself also extends, which reveals a little bit of detail in there. Not too much paintwork at all, except for the barrel, which is silver. In addition to that, you have the shield, which doesn't have any moving parts on it, unfortunately, but it's pretty well detailed on the inside. And just like the beam rifle, or the launcher, it has just a few paint apps, the yellow here. For the hands, you have a pair of trigger finger hands, which are supposed to be for holding the guns in either left or right hand. And you have one regular open fist for the right hand, which I believe is just for the beam saber, although all of the hands do a decent job of holding on to the accessories, it's just it looks a bit different. And then you have the trademark dynamic open hand, which I believe a similar mold made an appearance on the Robot Damacy Double Zeta Gundam very recently. Looking at the figure itself, you can see that the paintwork isn't really the best because obviously this was a arcade prize figure. You can see that the colors are pretty basic. There are no lines on it or anything, but the molding is very good. You can see that the details are actually very sharp, and it does have pointy V-fins. Not very sharp, so you won't like poke yourself on them, but they are stiff, not the rubbery kind, so they won't fall out of shape. Now as for articulation, you have the tail binder here that can move up and down a bit. You have the wings that are on ball joints, so they can be posed around dynamically. And when you move on to the head, you have just one joint up here, which gives you a good bit of motion. Do be careful because the side plates on the face are quite thin, and if you're not careful, you can get them caught on the outside of the collar, and that might cause some trouble for you. The chest has a really good bit of articulation right in here that allows it to go, well, right now I believe it's fully forward, like that, and then you can bend it back, like so. The figure doesn't do a very good job of like leaning backwards, like in a very convincing way, because as you can see, the neck is positioned behind of this joint, so it looks a little bit weird when it's leaned back all the way like this. But it can do that, and from some angle, it does actually look pretty okay. The shoulders have a joint in here that lets it go up like so, and combined with the shoulder, the arms can come up about this far. You have your rotation at the top right there, and you have a double jointed arm that can do a full bend. The shoulders can also come outwards like so, very far, which is good. And the hands, as you've seen during the accessories, are just on pegs, so they can only rotate. The waist is on a huge ball joint, so it can move around a lot and rotate. It doesn't rotate too much to either side because the waist itself is rectangular, and so is the hole, so you can see that it starts running into things. Back skirt doesn't move, but the sides can come up as much as you like, and so can the front, which come out at an angle, which is quite interesting. The leg here, you can see, has a ratcheted joint going outwards, which is really great for doing wide-legged poses so that the weight of the figure doesn't weigh it down and make it do the splits. And you have the regular joint that goes forwards, back, free rotation, and then you have the knee. Unfortunately, I think this is actually probably the weakest joint on the figure, and of any Zeta that I actually know, because most Zetas can do a full bend, but this one does not, because this piece on the back, as far as I know, doesn't move any more than this, so it doesn't really get out of the way very well for you to pull the leg down further. Oddly enough, even though the Zeta does not transform, the leg can still do that in the front, which looks, well, in my opinion, a little strange. And the ankles are really good, as SCM EX figures are known for. That little flap in the front. And you have this whole section here that will go inwards for your really wide poses. So you can move the ankle quite a bit. And you have a normal ball joint in there, so you can move a bit to the side and forwards and back and such. The little thruster on the back here can also move up and down just a bit. And that's the figure. In general, I'd say the biggest strength of this figure is its design. The SCM EX line is known for very strong stylizations, and it carries through very well in this particular figure. The articulation and the accessories are a little bit lacking, but that doesn't keep the figure from pulling off very strong poses like this one. Taking into account the fact that this is a prize figure, the paint and detail level is quite acceptable as well. I'd say the only real weakness is availability. This figure did come out in 2007, and in figure years, that's an eternity. So tracking down one of these is going to be quite difficult. There are some listings here and there on Yahoo Japan auctions, but expect to pay a small fortune to find one in a good condition. However, if you find one that's still with its box, you can probably count on it to be a good example because due to the materials used in the figure, it won't very likely deteriorate very much. So expect to see this guy again in October when the Roa Damashi Zeta comes out, and I'll run the gauntlet between the two. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.